Joining us now is Dr. Shireen Garriman. She's a clinical psychologist and she specializes in positive psychology and health. She's going to be helping us understand some of the psychological impacts of transition. Welcome, Dr. G.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
We just heard some really powerful stories from our vets. Tell us a little bit about what one could expect to experience psychologically when they go through a major transition. It could be vets, it could be other people transitioning in life.
It was really quite profound to listen to the stories of Brad and Silvestri. And one thing that really struck me was what Brad said, that it was a battle every day when he came back. They returned home from a battle, and now they feel as though they have to fight for what is rightfully theirs, their benefits, their place in society. So I heard of some identity issues.
Like a fight to even be recognized that I'm here and I should be valued in some way.
Right, and Brad alluded to that, talking about respect. I would imagine, we can only imagine, those of us who are not veterans, that respect is a key component because they had the solidarity of the combat unit. The men and women had their back, so to speak, and now they're here and the social connection is fragmented. And one thing we do know about social connection is that it profoundly impacts well-being. It's the most important component of psychological health.
So that feeling that you've got a support structure under you, that you're not on this high wire with no net, flying at 30,000 feet.
Right, and they said that the transitional period was 3 weeks, only 3 weeks. And I would imagine during that 3 weeks, it's more logistical, not psychological. I'm wondering if anybody asked them, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's the transition like? No, it's let's fill out this form, let's get this done, let's get this application. Logistical sorts of things which are critical, mind you, but I'm really wondering what they do to address the profound psychological needs.
I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm wondering, is there a typical time period that you would expect that it would take for somebody to psychologically transition out of the military or or from one situation to another, not just the logistical aspects of transition?
That's a really good question. I don't think I can answer that, but what I can tell you is that each one of these veterans has a different level of resilience, which we know is critical for anyone during a transitional period. What concerns me most about veterans is that we know now that resilience is not just some people have it, some people don't. We know that there are multiple pathways to resilience, but social connectedness is the glue that can really facilitate that, and that, as I said, is not there. So for each veteran, it would be a different path. And they're under so much stress when they come back that the resilience of even the strongest is going to be challenged.
Dr. G, is there value in understanding one's passions to help manage all of the things that we've heard these vets experienced?
I think there's great value in understanding and knowing what your passions are, because your passions lead you to your purpose. And as I tell my clients, their purpose is their North Star. That's what guides you. That's what you can really hang on to, that, so that when you're struggling with identity, transition, you know who you are at your core.
And I guess that must be incredibly important, because so much of who you associated yourself with being is gone when you're no longer wearing that uniform.
Right, your, let's say, external identity, which I think they do internalize. I'm a soldier, I have a purpose, but they still have the same purpose. They still have the same North Star, but maybe need a little bit of help teasing that out.
So it's interesting that I looked at the results of the passion profiles that the guests that appeared on today's show took, and surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, almost every single one of them typed with an altruist archetype. They had altruist as in the top one or two of the passions that they carried. Do you think that's unique, given what you heard them say and what they do?
Well, it's very interesting, isn't it? Altruists, they see the big picture in terms of the well-being of the many supersedes the well-being of the few. Mm-hmm. They may be aware of the few, but their eye is on how can I impact as many people as possible in as positive a way as possible. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they're drawn to this project, which I think has purpose as a core value.
Absolutely, absolutely. And no surprise that they were drawn to serve in the military.
Exactly.
Because it's serving on a huge scale.
Huge scale. I mean, their lives, in many cases.
Willing to lay down their lives.
Willing to lay down their lives, yes,
for the
that's
rest
their
of us,
purpose.
for the rest of
yes,
us.
for the greater good.
If you are someone who has a family member that is experiencing some of the things we've heard about today, maybe they're struggling with transitioning, maybe they're struggling in a situation with finding a job or struggling with a situation with finding a home. And they're struggling on some level with the core of who they are through this process. Is there anything that you could recommend that a family member or friend could do to support someone experiencing what we heard about today?
It's a big question. I think if you just honor the person that you knew prior to military service, or the person that you believe is in there, yes. Respect and honor that we all transition out of a stressful situation in our own time. It's much like grief, actually. There is no one road to resolve grief. There is no one road for these veterans. And as Deborah said, I've counseled 500 vets, and there's 500 stories.
And they're all different.
And they're all different, right. So there's many different roads, but just honor the person's journey. And also support that resilience. One thing we know about resilience is that there is not just one, as I said, one path.
And they have shown amazing resilience.
They have
These
shown
people today
tremendous
have been incredible.
Resilience.
Incredible. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts today, and your wisdom, and your practical wisdom, as always. I really appreciate very much having you here.
It has been an honor.
Come back again.
Alaina.
Come back again soon.
You.
Thank you. What I learned about veterans' issues so far suggests to me that it's going to take a lot more than government programs and agencies to fix. Joining me next is the representative of a company that is taking this seriously. They are doing a huge number of things to make a big difference. We'll be right back. I have great news for our viewers in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. You have access to the Women's Center. For 40 years now, the Women's Center has been providing education and counseling services to individuals, couples, and families. At the Women's Center, you can find assistance with career, legal, and financial challenges, as well as support programs focusing on a variety of issues like domestic violence, parenting, and dealing with grief. Best of all, the Women's Center provides a sliding scale fee so everyone can have access to their services. You can call their Washington, D.C. or Vienna, Virginia offices to schedule an appointment, or find them online at www.thewomenscenter.org.